In the 1960s, Cedar Point started entering a Renaissance period. They just built a railroad and an observation tower and an all-new wooden roller coaster named Blue Streak. At the tail end of the 1960s, Cedar Point called down the recently famous Aero Development, later known as Aerodynamics, to build a new mine train coaster, which still stands today. Despite being over 60 years old, it still gets decently long wait times of around 45 minutes. Here are my thoughts on Cedar Creek Mine Ride. First of all, let's talk about the ride stats. The coaster is 48 feet tall, has a speed of 42 miles an hour, and has just over 2,500 feet of track. Relatively unimpressive, but whatever. Stats do not make a ride good. The most impressive stat actually is the number of trains it has, which according to RCDB is 4. However, the last 2 times I visited, only 2 seem to be used. If you've seen a 3rd or 4th train within the last 2 years, let me know. Anyway, let's talk about the layout. You start by going up a pre-lift section, which is pretty unremarkable, except that you pass through where all the trains are stored. After a quick lift hill, you go into a straight section with 2 small dips. Now is when you notice that the ride runs pretty rough, but I actually think that could be a good thing, but I will get into that later. After those 2 dips, you go into a weird 360-degree turn that slopes up. So it's a really wonky helix. After that weird section, there's a pretty decent drop, and another straight section that goes right over the lake, which is actually pretty cool. After that, we see a helix and then a brake run. But that's not the end of the ride, because there's another lift hill, and after that lift hill, you guessed it, there's another straight section, which after that, there's a pretty intense, relatively unbanked turn, which leads into a slight uphill slope. Then the finale, which is actually a pretty fun 540-degree helix. The final brakes also have some theming, which is pretty nice. Overall, not a great layout, but it is a family thrill ride, so I don't really care. All that matters is it fun? Which it is. What makes the ride fun, though? It is kind of rough, but more of the fun kind of rough. It makes the ride more intense than it actually is, which kind of makes sense because it's a mine train. So for its final score, I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10. That means it's pretty good. A good fun family coaster. One of the best I've ever ridden, actually. I would say this is a good ride to get your kids on, or a good ride to break your fear of coasters, or a coaster to ride after you just ate. So that is gonna wrap up this video. Before I go, I just wanted to say that if you enjoyed this, you might want to follow my Instagram page at ZachCoasterCrazy. With that, thank you guys for tuning in. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!